Hi everyone, today is August 11th, 2018, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger.
And I'm Deck Tech.
And the World Championships are over. We are entering a new phase in Duel Links. There is a new box out, the Empire of Scarlet, a bunch of other new cards out. And we'll talk about that all, but first of all, first and foremost, we want to apologize for last week's episode. Skype had an issue where they updated their version and they forced it upon both of us, and that had some incompatibility with the recording software we use. We tried both of our formats. If you listened to all of last week's episode, and you probably got through 17 minutes of talking, and then the other 16 or so was just choppy bits, and it was literally unlistenable. And we actually did record a full podcast, and we went through it all, but the recording just got corrupted, so we are now switching over to a new system where we both record each other independently, and we're going to put it all together. That should not only record the whole episode, I mean, we have nothing. We can't go lower than we did last week, but the individual quality should be better as well because we're both using our own mics. So be sure that we're doing our best. And sorry for last week. And this episode should be recorded in full. All right. So with that said, I changed the title of this segment to Our Weeks instead of Our Weeks in the Duel World, so because other games are competing with our interests, and we do know our listeners do play other games, so we're going to talk about that. We will revert back to Duel Links almost immediately. So, Deck Tech, what have you been playing this week?
Yeah, we've been naughty, not in the Duel World so much. I've been auto-dueling and stuff as I always do, but for the most part, more of my attention has been in Hearthstone, which had a set release this week as well. The Hearthstone releases are, people who play that might know, it's much more of like an event where they hype it up for like a month ahead of time. I went to a pre-release event. Those are always fun. The meta's like constantly evolving and everyone's innovating for those first couple days, and then it's just like a really big deal when the set comes out, as opposed to in Duel Links where cards come out kind of sporadically, and then even when a new set comes out, it may or may not change things. It definitely does change them in Hearthstone, so it's kind of a big deal, and I've been all in on that. How about you?
Yeah, so Hearthstone, I did play an arena, and I went infinite, which is a fancy way of saying I went 8-3. But I did do that, and then I've also been playing a lot of Warframe, which is a free-to-play game, and they have an event going on there, which last happened when I didn't play the game, which was 9 months ago. So I'm doing this farming for this 4% drop. That it's ongoing, so it's like until this guy dies, but he's at 30% now, so he's going to die any moment today, so I get this 4% drop. Anyhow, in Duel Links, I did play enough to get to Plat 2, and that was with the new cards, the Vampires, and I did buy through the set 2 times, so yeah, it's definitely fun to put down for hires, but if push comes to shove and I can't get somewhere, I'm probably going to switch back, but I do think Vampires were underestimated, and I found out they were underestimated.
Yeah, and it's cool. We're going to talk about the individual cards and stuff, but it seems like both because it's a MiniBOX and because of the actual cards in the decks, it seems like it's a little bit of a cheaper archetype, which is kind of cool too.
It's cheaper for people who played the game longer. If you're a new player, you're not going to get your Gozukis right off the bat, so it's one of those things that'll help older players for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So we're moving on to This Week in Esports, where we talk about the tournaments that went on. And this is the first tournament post-Worlds, so Duel Links meta has incorporated the 2-deck format where it's best of 3 win with 2, and of course the card limits. This is the official Konami thing now, so Duel Links meta will follow that. So weekly 32, Nyx won first place. Beatdown for Hires and Holy Guard Amazonas. If you recall, these 2 decks were often paired, and they were the most common ones. But Holy Guard Amazonas is sort of an innovation from the championships, I think. I think people were running either Weevil or Odeon, typically, I think. Now it's Holy Guard.
Right, yeah. So if we look at the overall archetype amounts played at this tournament, it's still mostly Fur Hires and Amazons, and that's kind of to be expected. When you're doing a 2-deck format, you're likely to bring either the 2 best decks or something to try to counter that everyone else is going to bring the 2 best decks. So that's not surprising, but still messing with the specifics of it. That's definitely nice that we're not at least fully settled on an exact pair of like 40 cards that every single person's going to bring.
Right. Second place, select Maple, Parasite, Amazonas, and Switcheroo Silent Spellbooks. Both of these decks look very standard, except for the Amazonas deck does run 2 Sphere Kribos.
Yeah, the Amazonas deck, I think it's the 2 Sphere Kribos is kind of weird, but it's mostly just a little bit of a twist on the Parasite version. So kind of just everyone, as we've seen a little bit throughout, is just playing whatever cards they like best in their version of the build. Instead of it being a 20 set cards, it's kind of like 17 set cards, and then you can mess around a little bit with those last few slots.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's possible Amazonas will go out of the meta when things get too powerful, and they still won't be settled. Like, Fur Hires, I would say, are fairly settled, but Amazonas don't seem that way.
Mm-hmm.
Third place, Luller, Switcheroo, Silent Spellbooks, and Beatdown Vampires. This is... I was following the Vampire thread on Duel Links Meta on the Discord just to... because I didn't know how to build the deck, and I didn't know how to play it. I still don't know how to play it. I'll admit, I still don't know how to play the deck. And this was kind of the first version. And then DK was just crushing people on stream, and he made a different version. But this is kind of the first version centered around Vampire Grace, 1-turn kill.
Nice. Yeah. This version looks like it requires 3 of the Vampire Retainer, so it's a little more expensive than the other versions I've seen, where you only have to buy through the set twice. So, yeah, hooray for innovation.
In Vampire Retainer, it's tough. It's a dog, so I just think of it as the dog. I don't know what a retainer. It's not a thing for your teeth, so I don't know what it is. But yeah. Third place, Travis Gondo, Beatdown, Fur Hires, Parasite, Amazonas. Not much to add about these decks.
Yep. Yeah. Like we said, pretty much it literally has 3 slots different in the Parasite Infestation Amazonas, so just messing with the specifics of it, but these are both pretty standard, just like his little twist on both lists.
Yep. Alright, so this episode is mostly going to be a card review episode since 3 sets of cards came out, and this is centered on the new MiniBOX Empire of Scarlet, and this is a very important box. Even if the cards aren't great and you're not excited about getting the cards, this is the first MiniBOX where it changed from 80 packs to 100. And in doing so, the main boxes are going down from 200 to 180. We still don't know the specifics of the main boxes because we don't have the next one, but there are now going to be 3 URs and 10 SRs in the mini box, which marginally increases the chance of getting a rare card, UR or SR, in a mini box from 12.5 to 13%. Whether those cards are good or not is another question, but that has happened.
Yeah, we were talking about it before the show. One thing that I always thought was weird and that they haven't changed is that the MiniBOX individual URs are still equally as rare as individual SRs because there's only one copy of of each of them in the box anyway. I would have liked to have seen them go maybe keep the two URs and make two copies of each of the 5 SRs or something similar, and maybe up it to 3 URs and then 2 of each of 5 SRs, so that I don't know, it just feels wrong for the URs to be equally as rare as the SRs.
Free plays have to starve. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the point. The non-meme version of that is that by making only one copy of the SRs also, Konami's giving themselves 13 cards that if any of them are chase cards, you have to buy the set through more than twice because you need that third copy. So, it's kind of a bummer. If they had made it the way that I would have liked them to have made it, I think it would have made a little more sense, and it definitely would have reduced the overall amount of purchases you'd have to make, which is, of course, nice for us players, but perhaps at odds with what Konami was specifically aiming for, since, of course, they are a company that's trying to make money.
And I said this on Twitter, and it didn't get the best response. Well, it didn't get it. Another way to say it is that there were still many complaints about it. I had heard about this news a while ago, like maybe a month ago, and I was just afraid that the mini boxes would go up to 100, and that was it. With the way that gems were going, it seemed like they were going to do that. It's possible that they released this news as a leak to test the waters before they did the main box switch. I feel like that happened on purpose.
Very sneaky.
But it resulted in fewer cries of anguish heard through the night, so I guess that helped. I still forget the tagline for this box. Something like that.
Something. That was close enough. Yeah. Something vampire-y.
I didn't know vampires cause people to cry through the night. Anguish.
Another thing that I don't like while we're, just shooting it is that vampires are zombies in this game.
They are, right? What else would they be?
I don't know. They've always been something different in my mind. In the mythos.
Fiends or spellcasters?
Well, no. I mean, I guess maybe spellcasters or... That's a problem.
Oh, yeah, this is like a discussion I've heard before. What are vampires? Right.
So, clearly, vampires, like zombies, fall under the category of undead. But it's not it's not the same, man. It's just like
they
mummy.
turn into bats? Or
like, if you add a mummy in there, it's the same idea, right? It's undead.
They're all zombies, right.
Well, I guess.
In Yu-Gi-Oh! There's plenty of mummies, and they're all zombies, I guess.
Right. So the Yu-Gi-Oh! Term zombie should probably be undead. Yeah. There we go.
I agree.
All right, you want to talk about the actual cards?
Yeah. So this box, this guy, Vampire Scarlet Scourge, he's the cover model of the box, but unfortunately he's not that good. It's kind of like Crimson Kingdom with the Vampire Lord. He's the cover model, but he's not very good. So, 6-star, 22/22 zombie. If this is normal summoned or special summoned, you can pay 1,000 life points. Target one vampire in your graveyard, vampire monster in your graveyard, except for Scarlet Scourge, and special summon it, but it can't attack this turn. You can only use this effect once per turn. At the end of the battle phase, if this destroyed a monster by battle, you can special summon them from the graveyards to your field. So you get to steal their monster, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of mediocre, frankly. You could use the ability to get one of your bigger vampires out. They're all about the same attack, like 2,000 attack. And decks don't even run this card, frankly. I put it in my deck because I didn't have 3 retainers, if that makes any sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, this one was also part of the Duelist Challenge that we're going to talk a little bit about after. And it seemed like it was there as a distraction because it made me do it wrong the first time because I didn't finish reading the card and it says it can't attack this turn, or I skipped over that part or whatever, and I was like, oh man, I messed up. So he's a trick. That's all he is.
And in Vampires, you discard stuff all the time. That's just how it is. And sometimes it's like, oh, I'll just throw this guy away because I'm not using him. So it's just like that's what he's for.
Yeah, there you go. Worst case, he's just another vampire to pitch.
Insector Centipede, 3-star Dark Insect, 1600, 1200. Once per turn, you can equip one Insector from your hand or graveyard to this one. If an equipped card is sent to the graveyard while equipped to this card, you can add one Insector from your deck to your hand. While this card is equipped to a monster, that monster's level is increased by 3. So, this guy can actually tutor multiple cards, because you can... Insectors will probably rely on Storm cards, like Storm, Parallel Twister, Double Cycle, and things like that, because they can't really control the back row on their own. So, this is expensive, because it's a draw engine, basically.
Yeah, so this was another one of the Duelist challenges were related to these guys. Or maybe that was just the preset. I don't remember. But I did a challenge on these, and these were kind of fun. I haven't played with any of the set yet. I haven't bought any of the set through, but I like the idea of these guys. Some of the other Insectors we'll see when you equip them to him, they like buff his stats, and it's a interesting mechanic. I like it.
And Interplanetary Purpley Thorny Dragon, 5-star Dragon, 2200, 1100. If a monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this from your hand. So this kind of reminds me of something like Chaos Hunter or Cyber Dinosaur, but it's a free 2200 that kind of serves just to come out on the board and protect your life points when they're hitting you three for hires. And it's really bad against Econ, though, because you can just steal... they ditch their lower monster and steal this guy and win the game. But it's not a card you're really looking for, but it's not a bad card to have. It's one of those, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty powerful to me. Obviously, it has a hilarious name. When I read it on the card, it was a little harder to read because it's all in caps and all smashed together, so I didn't realize what they were doing with that. But having heard you just read it, that's hilarious. And I think it's a decent card. Maybe it's beyond the point in the game. We've said this a lot, where this type of thing will have that much value. But a while ago, maybe a long time ago now, we were playing free 2200s that you can only summon on your turn for free, and that were only free if your opponent had 2 monsters and you had 0. So, like, this is clearly stronger than that. And I could see a lot of good uses for it.
Go to the SRs. There's 10 of them this time. And these two are kind of the workers of the vampires, and why you will need to buy this box a lot because of the vampires. Vampire Familiar, 1-star, 500, 0 zombie. It's a bat. If this card is special summoned, you can pay 500 life points, add 1 vampire monster from your deck to your hand, except for Familiar. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send 1 vampire from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard. Special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. You can use this effect once per turn. The other one is Vampire Retainer, which is the dog. 2-star, 1200, 0. If this card is... It's the same thing, where you get to pay life points to bring it back, and then you get a vampire card. I think you get a magic card. You get a spell or trap, vampire spell or trap, from your deck to your hand. So that's what this is for. And it's a little better because it has 1200 attack. And you can attack sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
so basically you would... buy through this set a few times just for 2 or hopefully 3 retainers, because what they do is tutor the specific vampire monsters or spells and traps directly to your hand, and they also help ditch the other cards which would trigger additional effects. They are very combo heavy archetype.
So, is the Vampire Kingdom one of those cards we're searching out too?
Yes.
Talk about that.
Typically run a few of these. So this is a field spell. Zombie-type monsters gain 500 attack during damage calculation only. Once per turn, when a card is sent from your opponent's deck to the graveyard, target 1 card on the field, send 1 dark vampire monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, destroy a target. So... you want this Vampire Kingdom on the field, and what happens is The zombies have different effects. Not even zombies. It could be any card that sends your opponent's card, that mills a card, basically, for your opponent. Vampire Grace is one of those cards, but another one that I learned from Decade is Simultaneous Loss. And Simultaneous Loss is a trap card where both players send the top deck to the graveyard, on the deck to the graveyard. So you do that, Vampire Kingdom's on the board, you destroy a monster on the field.
Interesting.
Destroy a card on the field, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Combo piece.
Nice.
And also Vampire Kingdom has another synergy with a trap card called Vampire Takeover, where it can be played directly from the deck. So this is a very important card, and of course everyone gets 500 attack.
Yeah, which is nice because their bodies are a little understated, so it helps you kind of get over through attacks and stuff if you have to.
Yeah. Alright. The next card is Insector Gigamantis. 6-star insect 2400 0. You can target one face-up Insector you control. Equip this card from your hand to that target. While this card is equipped to a monster, that monster's original attack becomes 2400. If this card is sent to the graveyard while equipped to a monster, you can target one Insector monster in your graveyard except Insector Gigamantis. Special summon that target. The effect of Insector Gigamantis can only be used once per turn. So it seems to be a staple because it gives them immediately 2400 attack. It makes their attack 2400, and it's a free resurrection, it seems.
Yeah, this seems like a kind of a workhorse in the archetype. It seems like a really strong card, and it was one of my favorite ones when I was doing those little preset challenge things. It's really interesting.
Hammer Bouncer, 6-star warrior with 2300 2000. If your opponent controls a card and you control none, you can normal summon this card without tributing. If this card attacks an opponent's monster, as long as you control no spell or trap cards, your opponent cannot activate any spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. It's not really a free 2300 like I wrote, it's a normal summon 2300. And it's a lot better going second, because your opponent's probably going to have stuff on the board. I think you could... This doesn't seem like a competitive card, but it seems like you could use stuff that's like hand protection. There's a bunch of hand protection cards, like Sphere Karibo, for example, and some other ones. There's a few other ones, but it doesn't seem like it's anything right now, but I don't know.
Yeah, it might be one of those cards that is more designed towards newer players, just to give them something that's good in like the gold ranks or whatever. I agree. It seems like a really solid card on turn 2. I don't know if the spell trap part is as important, because I'm not sure if you want to just play a naked 2300, if even that's good enough. But on that turn 2, it's essentially a 4-star 2300, which is really good. So I think there's a little potential. I agree with you, though. It doesn't seem like it's going to be in any of the highest level decks. It seems like it kind of has like a cap to its potential. So it's really good in those lower ranks and probably not as good in the highest ranks.
Looks like an Unga Bunga card.
Yeah.
Based on the way it looks, too.
Right. Yeah, the art is not what I'd call inspired.
Wall of Illusion, an old favorite, 4-star Fiend with 1,1850. If this card is attacked by a monster after damage calculation, return that monster to the hand. So this is kind of like anything like Gale Lizard, where they bounce stuff. And this would have been really good back in the day, because they wouldn't have even hit over the 1850. And, you know, it's not a card that you really want, but it's not the worst. And it might be better in the future against Synchros whenever they get here, because extra deck summons cost a lot of resources.
Yeah, maybe. This is one of those cards that I used to play back when I played the TCG, because it was, you know, just a budget card that was fairly solid.
It was in the free box, right? Or I don't remember.
Yeah, probably. I don't know, but it's a decent card. Like you said, probably not the best. We have so many special summons that you could do for cheap, and ways to just like destroy cards without having to attack into them first, that it's unfortunately not going to have a huge impact. But it's another card that's probably really good if you're playing in those lower PvP ranks.
This is one that a lot of people are excited about. Zaborg the Thunder Monarch. 5-star, 2400 1000, of course. If this card is tribute summoned, target one monster in the field and destroy that target. So we had some Monarch support recently in a box. So this one is a little better than the previous ones because it just destroys a monster on the field.
Yep. Yeah, this is a great card. This is another one that I played back when I used to play the PvP. The TCG. It's just a really solid card. Tribute summons aren't really big in this game, but at a certain point, maybe they'll push it over that limit and we'll get the critical mass that we need to actually see some play, and this might be one of them.
I think this is the best card in this set. Mithra the Thunder Vassal. 2-star Thunder, 800, 1000. If this is in your hand, you can activate its effect. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. Also special summon this card. If you do, special summon one Vassal token to your opponent's field and defense. If this card is tributed for a tribute summon, you can activate this effect. You can tribute summon one monster during your main phase this turn in addition to your normal summon or set. You can only use this effect once per turn. So this is another Vassal card, and this one is better than the other Vassals because you can actually play 3 monsters in one turn. You think about that. And putting a token on your opponent's board can actually be used against them in different ways. It's a weak token, too. So you could play like a lot of... It's a pretty big ramp card, this card.
Yeah, that's true. You can do things like special summon this and then use this as a tribute summon and then tribute summon whatever you tribute summoned in as like your last resort. And you could do even crazier things on the other sides of it. Like you said, 800 attack is really low, so you're also just essentially giving your opponent, I don't know, like 1500 damage guaranteed, because whatever you're summoning can attack into that 800 and almost guaranteed deal a bunch of damage to them. So it's a cool card.
Dashing Shield, equipped spell, equipped to a normal summoned or set monster, gains 1000 attack. You take no battle damage from attacks involving it. This is as good as it gets for the equipped cards if you're just doing math, but it doesn't do anything to protect it, the card itself, or it doesn't bring anything back. You're saving life points, but who cares? It's not good.
Yep, this is a classic issue with the equipped cards. Like you said, you don't have any protection from getting 2-for-1, and that's kind of the main downside of having equipped cards. This would probably be a decent card if it were like a quick play, and even though that means you only get it for that one turn, I think that would still be better than this lasting turn thing that you have to kind of pre-set up and your opponent can do something about it and 2-for-1 you more easily.
We do have a quick play like that.
We do.
Zerk Scales. This is a rare card. I didn't go over it, but they gain 1000 attack, but they can't attack directly, and then they lose 2000 attack immediately.
Yeah, it's not quite what I wanted, but okay. Alright. Yeah. I appreciate the effort.
Last SR, Flash of the Forbidden Spell, normal spell, activate only when all of your opponent's monster card zones are occupied by monsters, so that's just 3 here. Destroy all monsters on your opponent's side of the field. So let's try Geki against Furhires. The thing it could keep the archetype in check, but they probably will use the Wiz. They have to use the Wiz against this card because that'll just kill them. But it's a tech card. That's where it is right now.
Yeah, I like it. So one other way that you can use it is you can just use it in a deck, like Amazoness, of course, which is the main example of it, where you have room for tech cards because you can use them as fuel if it's not relevant to whatever you're facing. So, if you don't need this effect, you can pitch it to the princess or to anything else that ends up needing. It doesn't work as well because it's not a trap, so you can't use the witch, but still, it's like, that's a very powerful effect that I could see getting some value.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, the Mithra gives them a monster. This could kind of just force a monster on their board.
Okay.
And then you could just blow them up, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good combo.
Alright. So we're talking about the archetypes, vampires. It's a control deck at its heart, because what they do is try to mill your opponent's deck. and they gain life points. They lose life points, they gain life points. They do a lot of stuff, but they could be very explosive. I initially thought they would be super slow, as did other people, but then I saw DK play the version with Vampire Vamp, and just wins games. That's all I gotta say. They're really fast. So, Vampire's Desire. Where is this card? This is a normal spell. Basically, this card has an ability that the first one you don't really use, but the second one, you could target a vampire in your graveyard and special summon it. Yeah, that's what it does. So it's a free resurrection. Well, you have to send one monster you control to the graveyard, but then you could just kind of do some kind of combo trick with that. Vampire's Domain. This is the red one with the Reaper on it. Continuous spell. Once per turn, you can pay 500 life points during your main phase this turn. You can normal summon one vampire monster in addition to your normal summoner set. Each time your vampire inflicts battle damage to your opponent, gain the same number of life points. So this is just a ramp. That's all it is, because a bunch of them are 5 stars or 6 stars, so this is a ramp. And also helps the Vamp, too. The Vamp is 7 stars.
Yeah, seems really solid.
Vampire Takeover is that trap card I mentioned. You get to play your field spell directly from your deck, and then you could special summon a vampire in defense mode from your graveyard. Typically, you run one of these. And then Vampire Vamp. This is the game changer that DK predicted. 7-star 2000. Once per turn, when this card or a vampire monster is normal summoned to your field, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls whose attack is higher than this one. Equip it to this card. This card gains attack equal to the combined original attack of the monsters equipped. If this card is sent to the graveyard while equipped to this card, you can special summon it. So basically it gets really big, because you're stealing Dinah. That's typically what happens. Mm-hmm. Or the Queen, Amazoness Queen, that happened too. And then they counter it, and then they lose their monster, and this comes back right away.
Yeah, seems... So once you can get it out, it seems very powerful. This was one of those cards where when I was looking at it, I hadn't seen the ramp in the set yet, and I guess I hadn't really taken into account how much recursion there is of bringing back your other guys. So I was like, I don't know, 7 stars. Not excited. But
Familiar and the Retainer do all the work, basically, because they just come back.
Right, yeah. Once you have that, once you can actually get her out, she seems incredibly powerful because it's like removal and a beat stick, and it is itself resilient to removal, like you said. So it seems really solid if you can make it work, and it sounds like we can.
Yep. Some other cards you use. Vampire Grace is from a previous set. That's another one. It has a one-turn kill with the Kingdom, because the Grace is in the graveyard. You bring it back, and then the Kingdom destroys something, and then she also destroys something from the deck for like a double removal or something. There's a lot going on. Gozuki is another card, because you could just ditch zombies, and then if Gozuki is destroyed or sent to the graveyard, he can special summon any of the zombies back, the vampires back. And then a very important one, Samurai Skull. Samurai Skull has a often forgotten second ability, where if it's destroyed by effect, you can special summon a card from your deck. And, there's a lot of Donpas running around, so they always destroy it by effect. Even the Amazoness destroys it by effect, I think. It happened yesterday, so that is a very important card as well.
Nice.
Insectors. Yep.
I was just going to say, you've convinced me. I'm hyped about the set now.
Hyped, yes.
Okay.
Insectors. These are equip guys that are... I think they're worse than the Noble Knights. I wasn't too excited about them, but they can get a lot of attack, and if you... they do have the resurrection effect with the Gigamantis. If you have enough of those Storm cards, you can make it work, I think.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of it. It's a really interesting archetype, and I like what they're doing, but it also feels slightly more of like a YouTube archetype than a real competitive archetype, where you're just doing like clever and interesting things that people aren't used to seeing. which work pretty well, and you're definitely going to get some wins, but maybe not as powerful as some of the other stuff.
Yeah. Hopper lets you attack directly, so you can send this equip card to the graveyard, and the monster it was equipped to can attack directly. So that's a win. That's sort of a win condition. Orb is a trap card that gives it protection, and it's a rare metamorph. It's like 500 attack and protection. So there. Ladybug increases levels. Increasing levels is something Insectors do, and I think that could be important for synchro summons because they mess around with the levels, so you could get a bigger thing out.
Yeah, that's a good point. We also have a couple things in the game already, like Monster Morph and whatever, where it might be relevant. I could see some sort of Insector into, what's it called? The Queen? The Insect Queen? For a similar idea, because you have Insect imitation, I think. So, the Insect Queen's pretty powerful, especially if you could get two out at the same time, because they protect each other. So, I don't know. Maybe there's something there to the leveling.
Insects are just neglected, because Weevil played Burn, and
yeah,
they were just tossed aside.
Yeah.
Butter Spies. These aren't really an archetype, because there's only 3 of them. And what they do is to buff people. So the Morpho Butter Spy makes your opponent's monster lose 1,000 attack and defense when you change battle positions. So you use Econ them and they lose 1,000 attack and defense. Swallowtail Butter Spy. When this inflicts battle damage, it loses attack equal to the battle damage inflicted. And Moonlit Papillon. Tutor card. Special summon card, I mean. So, they're not really a thing. They're warriors, though, which is interesting. They're not insects, so.
Okay.
And Naturia. Yep. Let's see. Naturia gets 3 new cards as well. Horn Needle. It destroys special summon things. The Spider Fang is a 4-star 2100 that has a limitation on when it can attack. And the White Oak. It brings two level 4 or lowers from your deck to special summon. This archetype's been long dead, and I don't think they're coming back just because you added 3 new monsters, but, maybe you can make it work in the lower ranks.
Yeah, it's interesting. Spider Fang, to me, reads like just ever after it comes out, because it doesn't say if they activated something this turn. But I don't know.
It's spell, trap, or effect this turn.
Oh, okay. It doesn't.
So it could be special summoned later in that turn.
Right. Well, because it doesn't say this turn on the card, so I don't know.
Oh.
But I don't know how the general rules of Yu-Gi-Oh work with that. So, anyway.
Right.
I agree with the conclusion that it's probably not bringing the archetype back.
Other notable cards. Cyber Shadow Gardener. This one's very interesting. The continuous trap. During your opponent's main phase, special summon this card as an effect monster as a machine with mysterious attack and defense. When an opponent's monster declares an attack that targets this card, the attack and defense become the same attack and defense as that monster. Once per turn during your opponent's end phase, set this card in its spell and trap zone. So that means if it survives, normally it's going to go 1-for-1 on that monster. Let's say you make it stronger and it survives. What happens is the card flips itself down again, and you can reuse it again for the next monster. So it never gets to attack on its own.
Yeah, that's an interesting card.
Like a stall card. It seems annoying, but it's really interesting. I've never seen that ability where it just resets itself.
Yeah, I could also see some sort of, I don't know, weird like Odeon thing where you're activating multiple... I mean, dealing like 200 extra damage isn't a huge advantage, but I do wonder if there's some value. Maybe some cards have every time you activate a trap. Of course, we have the what are they called? The Paleozoics. Yeah. So certain cards do benefit from playing multiple traps. So maybe having one trap that can be activated multiple times is of some value there.
This is a free-to-play card. You know, you get any attack you want on your monster. Extra net. The field spell. If a monster is special summoned from the extra deck, the opponent of the player who conducted the special summon can draw one card. So this is more important later on when you got synchro summons going on. Stuff like that.
Yeah, where's this one?
Normal? It's 2 right from the vampire.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. Okay.
It's just whatever.
No, I mean, I kind of like it. It's an interesting thing because it won't ever surprise them, right?
Well, and they need cards, I guess. That's something that helps because they used all their resources type situation.
Well, yeah. You get the card if they do the summon. It's an interesting thing.
The opponent of the player. Oh shoot! I thought it was just yourself. Well. Okay, it's less good than I thought then, because I thought that you would just do it yourself. It's just a counter card, sort of.
To, like, counteract your own cost of doing special summons?
No, to counter your opponent doing all the special summons. like what you said before, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. It could see some value. If special summons become so big, like, I'm thinking about basically what it is you're playing one card to maybe get 2 or 3. So you could do a Pot of Greed over a couple turns, maybe, if your opponent decides that it's worth it for them to let you do that. So
yeah,
I don't. It
doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah, no. I don't see it likely seeing play, but it is an interesting card, and it's something to always keep in mind. Like, if special summons become huge, and if there's some value proposition where you can do something good with all those extra cards you'll have in your hand, then maybe.
Yeah. And pulling the rug, counter a trap, negate the activation and effect of an effect monster whose effect activates when a monster was normal summoned, even itself, and destroy that effect monster. So I tried to count the number of monsters with effects, and it's like Amazoness Princess, Blue Boy, and some of the Masked Hero guys, Avion and Drill Dark, but no for hires.
Well, that's kind of, I mean, it's a decent card. It's definitely, like you said, worth considering. It's notable, like you listed it, as a counter type card for. The problem is, like you said, it doesn't hit for hire. So at this point in the ladder, it's a little bit of a dangerous counter card, unless you specifically have a deck that's good against fur hires but bad against Amazoness or spellbooks. Then, like, maybe you think, okay, it's worth it to do it for this deck. But it's not going to be a generally used thing until the meta shifts a little bit.
This is a more situational Divine Wrath, but it's free. So, like, I guess the cost of running a Divine Wrath would be better in certain circumstances, or maybe just Chalice or something, Memory Loss, something that works against more things.
Yeah, I mean, Chalice is nice, but Chalice usually means, to me, Chalice feels...
Still there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, they're still there. So Chalice feels like a bit of a hedge, where what you're doing with Chalice is you're saying, I will let you have some tempo right now, because I'm making your guy bigger, and your guy's going to stay on the board, and sometimes that means your guy, since you got bigger, can attack over my guy, or whatever, but I'm not going to give you all of the tempo value, because you don't get to do the effect you wanted to do, whereas this is kind of all in. Instead, it's a bigger gamble, because it hits fewer targets, and you can't use it like offensively like you can with Chalice every once in a while. So it's a little bit more of a boom or bust. You either just completely blow them out or you don't have a target. And I think there are definitely certain situations where that's better because, you know, the meta's more defined, or there's so many targets in the meta that it's just, there's not really much of a downside because you can almost always guarantee you'll hit something. So I think it's worth considering.
All right, so that was the whole box. Overall, I'd say the box is worth buying if you really want to play the vampires and things, but it's not a box that you would miss, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what comes with the next box. It's always the way they do this. We've talked about it before, but the way they do the gems economy, once you get to 10K, they start going into your little, whatever it's called, your treasure box.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you have to use them within, I believe, a month, or they expire. So they kind of force you to buy either this box or the next box, and you have to decide which one you want to look at. Or, obviously, you could go back and buy one of the old boxes if you want to go back and get a staple or something that you're missing.
Yeah, I went over 9,000, and I was like, I'll just buy it.
Yeah.
Alright, Ranked Duels update, 3 new cards, and of course this is the shortest season because it began late. I guess that's okay, that's why it's August 11th, and we've only won so few games in Ranked because it started late, so we have an excuse.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I played, like you said, I played some games in August. I played last week, but I got up to whatever it was, Legend, I think, last week, and then the season reset, and I've played one ranked game so far.
You've won one ranked game.
Well, yeah, that's true. I've won one. Who knows how many I've played?
Yeah, exactly. King Dragon. We've actually talked about this card when we thought Mokuba was going to give it out, and then they lied to us, so that didn't happen. But this is a fusion between Lord of D and Divine Dragon Ragnarok. It's 7-star, 2400, 1100. Your opponent cannot select any dragon monsters as targets of spell, traps, or monster effects. That's pretty good. Once per turn, you can special summon one dragon monster from your hand. So this is definitely a lower tier card because you're kind of just like Unga Bunga dragons going in. The ability's not that bad, actually. It's a really good card, but the problem is you have to run the other cards, which is Lord of D, and then the Ragnarok, which is just the 1500 dragon with no abilities. So you're going to have to mess around with some random dragon deck.
Yeah. Couldn't catch all of that over all the honking, but
Jeez.
But I agree. It's the card's not like good. We're not going to be playing with this dragon deck versus playing the top tier decks that are available right now.
Yeah. This is a card I remember a lot. Malevolent Nuzzler. Equip spell, 700 attack on a monster. You can pay 500 life points and place this on the top of your deck. So, yeah, we saw the equip cards that give 1,000. This is immediately power creeped.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where it tries to make up for the downside of the card disadvantage. But the problem is that it puts it on top of your deck instead of back into your hand. So it doesn't actually make up for the card disadvantage, and worse, it'll probably screw up your card draws or something.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Union Rider, 2-star machine, 1,000. You can control up to one Union monster that is currently a monster on your opponent's side of the field and equip it to this card. The Union monster that is equipped to this card cannot be changed back to a monster using its own effect. So, unfortunately, we've never really seen Union cards, so there that is.
Yep, exactly.
I think the last one we saw was the XYZ Dragon. Not XYZ, it's like, I don't know, those guys.
Yeah. I don't even remember. Oh, yeah, I do.
It was like an 1800, that's why it was okay back then.
Yeah, the cannons, right?
Yeah. Right. Alright. We haven't seen this in a while. The card trader update. 3 new cards. Familiar Possessed Asa and Familiar Possessed Hilta. They do the same thing. 4-star, 1850, 1500. Asa is Earth. Hilta's Fire. You can send one Charmer card and one whatever attribute. So Asa would be Asa the Earth Charmer, one Earth monster. Hilta will be Hilta the Fire Charmer, and one Fire. Special summon this card from your hand or deck. If you do, this card gets Piercing. So, basically what happens is those cards steal your opponent's Earth and Fire monsters, and then you tribute them both to special summon these guys.
Yes.
Or you only yes, you tripped them both. Yes.
Right. And let's see, one gets piercing.
They both do piercing.
They both do piercing. Huh. Okay, yeah. So basically it's like a card advantage thing. It's kind of this feels so like early Duel Links, but the idea is that you set your charmer, and then they play something and somehow don't attack into your charmer or something. You stall them out with the Windstorm or Kuribo or
use half shut.
Half shut. Is it? I thought it's a flip effect though, or whatever. You then use your charmer on the next turn to steal their thing, which happens to be of the attribute that you need, and then you get to permanently kill their thing by using it as a tribute to summon this slightly above average 4-star monster. Except now slightly above average is below average, so it's just, this is definitely like a card from the previous era of Duel Links, and it's not something that can really exist at this point in the game.
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious that they're back.
Yeah. One thing to note, I wasn't sure. I took a quick look, but I didn't look through like everything that's possible. I don't know. Look it up on Google it or whatever. But I don't think the Charmers are at the trader anymore. Do you know?
No idea.
Okay. I looked and they weren't in his, whatever it's called, his standard, I forget what it's called, but the old cards that he has. Let me see.
Regular catalog.
Yeah, there you go. It's not in his regular catalog, which is where I would think it would be. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder if those cards are just gone.
Are they from a box? Like, are we on the first boxes?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what's happening. It'd be really weird, though, if they made, like, cards have this obvious synergy, and then one part of it isn't available at all. If the cards were actually good, people would be very upset about that.
It's a cash grab right here. We're trying to fool people to buy the old boxes.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
And 6 scrolls of the Samurai Quick Play Spell. Tribute 2 face-up Samurai monsters. Special summon 1 Great Shogun Shen from your deck. So, Shogun Shen's not bad. And they kind of do things. There's various resurrection traps for 6 samurais.
Yeah, so I think Shogun Shen's main strength is just on the card itself, where you can just summon it for free without any tributes if you have 2 6 samurai already on the board. So that's just a crazy powerful card. I forget his stats, but he's pretty beefy. So that's
25, yeah.
Yeah, so that's just like so much value if you could do that. And so obviously this is a big cost compared to that because it's 3 cards instead of 0 to summon him. But you get to do it from your deck. You get to do it as a quick play. So I see that as like a combat trick. I could see that as like a combo lethal kill thing just to get extra attacks in. Especially by clearing up the board. If you have 3 slots full, you can then do this to open up another slot to then use another one of those reanimations, so you can get like 5 attacks in by doing this. So we haven't seen too much of 6 Samurai. They were never huge, and even when they were like fairly big, they weren't like dominant or anything.
Nope.
So I don't think the archetype's likely going to just come back because of this card. It's not like overtly broken or anything, but I do think it's a good enough card, and it's just an N, so I think this is a pretty easy pickup. I've already gotten 2.
Yeah, I played a lot of 6 Samurais, I must admit, and they were never even tier 4. They were just always on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And they're really fun to play. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Alright. Duelist challenges are back. There's 3 right now as of this recording. I cheated to do the one this morning with the Noble Knights because I would have taken forever to figure that out. But they're okay this time. They're kind of challenging.
Yeah, I mean, as evidenced by your having to cheat to do it.
Yeah.
I've tried them. I did the 2 yesterday. They took a couple tries each. Like I said, there was a trick in one of them where I thought I had to reanimate with one effect, but I had to actually reanimate with the other effect, because if I did it with the vampire, it meant that I didn't get to attack. And I like that about these challenges. Sometimes, especially when the new set comes out, they don't really make it a challenge so much as just a walkthrough tutorial.
For a higher one.
Yeah, where there's only like a lot of them. There's only one option, and then it's like play the 2 cards that are in your hand, and then you win. And those aren't cool. I like that there's actually a challenge this time. I tried the Noble Knight one this morning before we started recording. I tried it once, but I couldn't do it. So I'm going to try it again once we're done. Hopefully be able to complete that one. I don't want to become the dog like Joey.
Right. I already gave up and I admitted defeat, so...
Yeah, that's alright, though.
Had to cheat.
The game doesn't know that. All of our listeners do, but the game doesn't.
Right. Upcoming news, Serious Chazz next week. And the important thing about Serious Chazz, he is releasing a card that is not even a TCG card. It is only used in the anime. And that's Ojama Mandala, which is really good. So, be sure to get that card.
Yeah, that's we were talking about it before the recording. That, I think, is the first time this game has ever done that, where we've gotten a card only for Duel Links. We have had cards that were released, like, I don't know, simultaneously or really close.
Or they changed the card too, that tortoise, the emerald tortoise.
Yes, that's true. They did change a card, but I think this is the first time that we've had an only Duel Links card, unless, of course, they end up releasing it after or whatever based on Duel Links. So it's pretty cool.
Yep. We've made it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yami Marik's going to the gate. Battle City will no longer be terrorized by his antics. The tabletop event's coming. So there's a bunch of... Actually, they're going to... the tabletop event has some of the new archetypes for the next main box. So you get to play them before, so they can hype you up. KC Cup, August 29th to September 10th. Tristan's back. New Decklist features, and Yubel is coming in September. And here is a link of skill leaks coming to the game of 5Ds and GX.
Sorry, my mic got issued.
Closely.
That's pretty cool. The skill leaks, there are a lot of them here. So, I guess that makes sense. When you're adding a whole world, there's going to be a bunch of people. So each of them is going to have a couple skills. So that's why there's so many here. But I haven't been able to look through all of them. Were there some you wanted to highlight?
Well, one thing I noticed is that they mess around with levels a lot. And that is very important for synchros, because you boost the levels, and then you get a bigger synchro summon, because you just add the levels together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of ramp in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of tuners, which is synchros as well.
Yeah. So that's...
And then...
makes
yeah,
sense.
go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that makes sense then for the whole new theme, I guess, of the new world.
Yeah, they're still in the shop, though, the motorcycles, so we can't play with them yet.
Yeah, not yet.
I'll get the polish, everything.
When do we...
Sauce pipes.
Let's see. So Yubel's coming in mid-September. Do we have a guess on when Synchro or 5Ds is coming?
October?
I guess so.
Maybe October.
Since it's after September.
Yeah. Or maybe the last week of September?
Yeah, it's just
maybe.
weird that they've been hyping it ahead of time. Like, I just talked at the start of this episode about how they don't do that in Duel Links as much, where they tend to kind of just drop sets on us, and even GX, they just kind of just drop the world on us for the most part, and so it'd be interesting.
You wouldn't have known had you not checked out data mines. You wouldn't have expected it.
Yeah, whereas this time they were previewing stuff at San Diego Comic-Con and kind of hinting at it and stuff, so I wonder, if maybe there's a change of direction. I'd like to see that. It doesn't work as well because they're releasing new content like every week, so I don't know, but it's kind of cool.
Yep. We're navigating tough seas here of content.
Yeah, we sure are.
Alright, so we are done today. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to search the Duel Assessment Podcast on any of your searchers. Subscribe and listen. Check out the podcast and more at our website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Duel Assessment. We have a Patreon page. If you want to help support our work, patreon.com/duel_assessment. Email us with any questions at theduelassessment@gmail.com. Or you find us on Twitter, duel_assessment. Me at GreenRangerCCG. DeckTech at HSDeckTech.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.